Imagine you could keep only one memory. Which one would it be? Your graduation day? Your wedding day? Or perhaps, for some, that one fine day when your favorite football team finally wins the league? On the other hand, if you could erase one memory, which one would it be? A bad breakup or some awfully embarrassing situation, such as throwing up on your boyfriend after first meeting his parents for a dinner, as in my case? Well, these and other memories define us. They give us a sense of who we are in the world. They give us our past as well as the future. Yet, numerous neuropsychiatric disorders have been linked to some form of memory impairments, such as amnesia, Alzheimer's disease, schizophrenia, depression, post-traumatic stress disorder, and many others. It is therefore essential to study the ways in which we can improve these memory deficits associated with these conditions. But can we? Can we somehow enhance the wanted memories and perhaps delete the ones we don't actually want? Well, in science fiction, we can. In the Matrix movie, the main protagonist proclaimed, "I know Kung Fu," after a brief session of uploading the martial arts skills onto his brain. In another movie, Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, the main protagonist decided to completely erase the memory of their ex-partner. It is a very exciting idea to think that we will be able to manipulate our memories in the future in such a way. But can we? Is our science as good? Does the knowledge of our brain reach so far as to being able to identify a specific memory and then edit it according to how we want it? Well, some scientists, including me, believe that something as commonplace as sleep could be the key to enhancing our memory. And that's because sleep has been shown to play an important role in the consolidation or saving of our memories. And especially slow-wave sleep has been shown to play an important role in this process. But before I move on to tell you more about slow-wave sleep and consolidation and how we can use these to enhance and change our memories, I'll just firstly tell you how we actually get information about our sleep. We are interested in brain activity, electrical brain activity. And we study this, we find out information about our brain's activity by placing electrodes on our scalp, as you can see me on the picture at my work, actually. And brain activity during sleep and during wake, they are two different things, really. In the waking state, our brains are very active and the activity is kind of chaotic and all over the place. But then during sleep, everything just kind of slows down. And the whole brain plays the same slow tune. And during this slow wave sleep, the consolidation happens. And the consolidation is important because it allows for transfer of memories from the short-term stores in the brain into the long-term stores of the brain. And to better explain the process of the memory transfer from one area of the brain to another, I'll give you an example, a metaphor, sort of. Consider your post office. In order for you to receive a letter from your post office, the post will firstly temporarily hold your letter in some kind of temporary storage facility. And in parallel, in our brains, this temporary storage facility is an area called hippocampus. It's a tiny C-shaped structure essential for the memory processes. And there, your letter is received, selected, and sent somewhere to your home address, in the wider brain where the information is stored for long-term use. Interestingly, this process of memory transfer from one area to another is easier during your sleep. There's less traffic on the streets of your brain, and the post office does not receive any new information in this time point. And interestingly, in the last 10 years or so, researchers managed to actually tap onto this process of memory transfer from one area to another. And they were able to change the mode of transportation of this post from the regular mode and make it more into a Ferrari-like process to make the process more efficient. And they do this using several techniques, such as acoustic stimulation or olfactory stimulation. And now let's finish with the post office metaphor, and I'll tell you more about these two techniques, my favorite part. So first, let's start with the first one, olfactory stimulation. Just imagine you are visiting a sleep laboratory for an experiment as a volunteer. The researcher will give you a task testing our memory, such as you'll have to memorize a list of words. And during some parts of the task, during some trials, you will be presented with a certain fragrance, such as smell of rose. And after you're finished with this learning part, you're just allowed to go to bed and sleep. And then, at some point during the night, you'll be presented with the same smell again. And this effectively causes your brain to react in a way which replaces the same activation patterns which it had during the previous learning session. And in the morning, you're more likely to remember more information than if the smell was not presented to you at night. And this type of technique is termed as targeted memory reactivation, because your memories are artificially reactivated by these cues, olfactory cues, during the night. And the second type of technique works very much on the same principle, except now the olfactory cues are substituted with the sound cues, such as this one. And in more recent years, scientists advanced this technique even further, and they showed that we actually don't need to use any cues during the learning part. It's enough if we use cues such as this one, in exactly tuned moments of the slow wave sleep. And if we do this effectively, this causes your brain waves to be more efficient again, and overall in the morning, you're more likely to remember about 10% more information. And interestingly, this was shown to work even in older population, where people are more likely to remember about 26% more words than if the sounds were not presented to them. And this is very encouraging news, because many of us will experience some form of memory loss as we age, and so this form of sleeping therapy might be just what our brains need to keep those memories alive. So this acoustic stimulation and olfactory stimulation, they work on our memories in general. They enhance our memory in general. And actually, we're still quite far from being able to identify a specific memory in our brain and then be able to edit it. And part of the problem is that we actually don't know where these memories are localized exactly. They are probably distributed across the whole brain. But in animal research, we see some advances already. For example, in genetically modified mice, using light beam, researchers were able to effectively turn on and off a mouse's fear memory at their will. And of course, this research is valuable and intriguing, but we cannot directly apply it to humans. It would be kind of difficult to genetically modify them and then change their memories. So we will have to come up with new and different techniques of how we can actually attain this. But even if we reach this goal, and are able to select that one memory which we want to erase or improve, should we try to do it? When I put my researcher side away for a moment, I must admit that I'm actually a little afraid of this technology, because inevitably it brings important ethical considerations. As we humans are very good at misusing the potential of new technologies, should we even try to attain it? And a good example of how the memory manipulation technology can be misused was shown in another movie, in Total Recall. There, the protagonist had his memory completely replaced and was given a new name. But the changes in his memory led to total confusion of himself in the end. He simply did not know who he was. So does that mean that we should give up on this technology completely? Well, I don't think so. Despite the possible risks, I still believe that the benefits may outweigh the costs, especially if we can create a set of clear ethical boundaries of this technology. I envision a future where you'll be able to make an appointment at sleep and memory clinic. And for example, if you might decide never to forget a face of a deceased loved one. If you are a war veteran or a rape victim, you might decide to forget your horrible experience and erase the trauma completely. Or if you are recently diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease, you may wish to update your memories repeatedly to delay the progression of the disorder in order to keep your past, to keep yourself. So the goal of this talk was to introduce you to the idea that science is slowly converging with science fiction in the area of memory manipulations. And I sincerely hope that our science will eventually catch up with science fiction and that our lives and memories will be improved by our favorite thing, sleep. Thanks.